Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is April the 1st of 2020. I hope you all are doing well, and we thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule, making Animal Crossing modifications in order to join us for the recap of manga that occurs weekly.
What's happened to Animal Crossing, Nick? I played many of them. I haven't played the newest one.
I've played none of them, so.
All I could understand was Animal Crossing was very popular. Everyone was playing it. And then very quickly, it started to become very cutthroat. Like, it's like, hey, if you're going to come to my town, I need 140 bells per turnip, fuckface.
Apparently, everyone wants to be an economist, but only when it doesn't actually count.
Yeah.
It's like, gambling, but without actual currency.
I just play gacha games for those, and you always lose.
Except those require you to actually spend money on them.
That's real money? I thought this was fun money that I used on my phone.
I mean, if it goes up any faster than like $1 a day, then you're spending money on it. I saw someone make their town's theme Judas, Chris Jericho's theme. So, they've just got, the little cartoon dog secretary like humming the Fozzie theme.
I mean, that's kind of it. I was like, how do you theme the rest of the town to it? Like, you're like, I make people wear the costumes from the music video, or
no, they had a flag of Jericho up somewhere too. So
there you go.
I mean, yes, you can also modify costumes. So hey, maybe it's like an AEW town hall. I don't know.
That'd be pretty sweet. We should off the bat note that this episode's being recorded on April 1st.
Yes.
Which is traditionally April Fool's Day. We're not going to be partaking in it, though. I think right now, considering everything going on in the world, this is absolutely not the time to be making jokes, ... at my expense. The rest of the world needs laughter and to be pranked, but absolutely not at me. That's 100% what we should not be doing, but everything else...
And that's why we didn't observe April Fool's Day last year either. It was because of the circumstances with COVID,
Yeah, it's because of the situations going on in the world.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be.
Don't prank me, you asshole.
But it's hilarious what happens to everybody else. If I found out my neighbor walked outside the door and he stepped in poop, I'd be like, "That's hilarious." Now, what we need in this world more than anything is laughter. Unless I'm the one that's going to be the butt of the joke, in which case we absolutely don't need it. Now is not the time for that.
You're like, I poke fun of myself enough, okay, so I don't need your help.
Let me internalize my own grief and not have to have, like, my salt shaker open up on my food or something like that. Or sugar get poured into my gas tank.
You're like, you would make jokes about, like, with your circumstance with your mom and everything, but then like if your salt shaker posts something, you're like, guys, come on, my mom, like, remember.
I'm like, guys, hey, my sick mom, what are you doing? She's never gonna say my name again. Like, I just lean into it.
You're always joking about that though, but why would you have my salt shaker though? Come on, what the fuck's up with that?
The only thing that makes it easy after taking care of my sick mom is having my food properly sodium.
I want to put salt on my food, but not too much.
Yeah.
Unless I decide to put too much salt on my food because my taste buds are terrible. But that's my choice.
And now that choice has been taken away from me, much like my mother's.
He's like, keep on it for like
processing abilities.
You just keep on it for like 5 minutes.
I need to guilt trap them at that point.
Yeah. All right, man. We got some manga to talk about today. Not as much. We do. Yeah, manga's been coming out. It's on the same schedule. Except for Seven Deadly Sins, and that was not due to anything that was going on. That was just because Crunchyroll was really fucked up with posting the chapters, and we're not going to have to worry about that until the spinoff or whatever comes out. So yeah, I guess we'll get into it. Start off with My Hero Academia, number 266, Happy Life. So this is
I bet this is going to be a happy chapter.
In a way. I guess. Depends on how you look at it.
Sure.
Dabi had just arrived in order to rescue Jean from twice from Hawks. Launched a big old wave of fire at him and then stomped on him with more fire to help, just because. But we see as this chapter begins that Hawks manages to get away. He has one of his hawk feather swords pull him to safety, while he also has twice. He's not under his arm, I don't think, but he's kind of like shoving him while he's being carried out by his feather. And of course, he has to freaking take his big furry coat off because it's on fire. And Hawks, however, is in really bad shape. One of his wings seems to be just completely gone. The other one is missing a lot of its feathers. It's kind of crackling. So he has lost a ton of his weapons. They were burned up by the fire the same way that they burned up when he helped out Endeavor against the High Nomu. And Hawks is like, you nearly killed your friend, supposedly trying to rescue him. But Dabi's like, nah, I knew you would save him. You're a hero. So Hawks then asks him, the way that you attacked me, it's like you already knew that I was, a traitor. What gave me away? And Dabi's like, nothing gave you away. I just haven't believed you from the start. So, not sure why he didn't kill him or anything, but maybe there's some sort of alternate scheme that's going on. I mean, personally, I don't think it really makes him look good if he's like, oh no, I never believed in you or anything. I just, waited until you launched a huge assault in our base and didn't stop you before I confronted you about it. Oh well. Hawks analyzes the situation. He's like, all right, well, I've gotten Bubai Gawara really weakened. That should prevent a full-blown rampage. So I'm just going to carry him out of here. But before he can do that, Twice summons a double of himself to kind of tackle Hawks while he tries to scrabble away. Dabi launches another wave of fire, which blows out the side of the crumbling building that they're in. So he manages to get away, and Dabi's like, all right, now go take out the heroes down there. They're waiting for you. And so Twice is like, all right. And he starts to scamper away, and he and Dabi kind of like slap hands. He gives him the hot tag on his way out. And Twice starts to summon more doubles, but Hawks appears in the doorway that he's running through. And Dabi realizes that when he blew open the side of the building, Hawks just flew out along with the flames and then circled around, which is honestly kind of hilarious when you take a moment to think about it. It just whoop, it just circles right around after he's done that. But this is a serious moment, so it's not funny at all. Shut up.
No.
So Twice tries to force his way through, but before they can clash, Dabi just says, Keigo Takami. And this gives Hawks pause. Dabi launches another wave of fire, which he has to dodge. And Hawks is just thinking to himself, how do you know my name? Who are you? Because we still don't know who Dabi really is. Or a lot of things about him, really. So Twice rushes outside. He leans over the balcony and looks at, people scrambling around in the atrium below. And he spots members of the League of Villains, and he's like, I've got to protect them. They've accepted me, and I've only paid them back by causing them pain. I can't let it end this way. My whole life, it seems like. And as he starts to summon another double, Hawks comes in through the wave of flames with with his long feather stretched out like a sword, bearing down on Twice. And Twice thinks to himself, as blood goes flying, along with Toga's handkerchief that she loaned him, that he's been a man falling lower and lower, getting duped. To you, my life looks pathetic and meaningless. And we see that Toga and Mr. Compress have been caught by a really weird-looking hero. He's got mouths.
By Danger Dude.
By Cuspid.
Oh, is that his name?
Molar Man.
I was like, did they name him Bicuspid?
Moral Molar. There we go. That'll work. And so he's, going to try and stop them. He's like, "Oh, it's all over." But the Twice clone that was summoned kills him. I mean, I guess he could survive that, but he got cut directly across the back of his skull, and there's a lot of blood, so he's not getting up for a while, at least. And so Mr. Compress and Toga, of course, are pleased to see him. Mr. Compress says, "Twice, make more doubles. We've got to make our getaway." But the clone says, "Sorry, Compress, I can't make more. It's taking all I've got just to hold this form together. Like when you're holding back a big dump." This is a serious chapter. Shut up. Not funny. And he says, "I got dropped down onto the concrete from up there. Sorry, you two. It's my fault again. Hawks pulled one over on me and I was duped." And he's already starting to dissolve. So he turns to Toga and he's like, "Oh, you got your face got hurt again. Let me give you back your hanky." And he kind of cleans her cheek off. And Toga recalls when she first gave him the handkerchief in order to bind up his ripped up mask. And Twice thinks to himself, "I've been wandering around searching for myself, and I found myself blessed with friends better than I could ever be." And as he's completely dissolving away, Toga wraps him up in a hug and says, "Thank you for saving me." But the clone thinks, "Could a guy ask for a better life? Die, Hawks. You don't get to tell me that I was unlucky. Being here with them, I was happy." So the implication is that Twice is just dead.
Mm-hmm.
It is entirely possible that that is not the case, of course, because this is, a superhero comic manga. We don't flat out see him being dead, but it looks like he is dead. Because we see, like the sound effect, the shink, the sword seems to go into the real one's body. And Hawks was saying that he was willing to kill Twice in order to prevent him from causing damage. As far as the Twice clone is concerned, I'm sure he thinks that the original is dead. But yeah, this was, I think, a very effective chapter showing, that, hey, these guys are assholes, they're societal rejects, but they do care about each other. And that it was nice to have that little bit of focus in the midst of this big war that's going on between the heroes and the Liberation Front. So
it's a very powerful chapter. As you mentioned, maybe there's an offhand chance he's still alive. The implication to everything here would definitely be that he's dead. There's a lot of reasons that maybe he might not. One being, as many people have mentioned, Twice is basically the heart of the League of Villains, and maybe it's intentional. He needs to die here because you're killing the heart, as the League of Villains goes from being kind of this anti-hero group you follow to just being the outright antagonist of the series going forward.
Make them less sympathetic.
But at the same time, he's also one of the more popular characters in the series too, so it's always one of those things too of, does Horikoshi have full right to kill him, or is there like an editor who's just like, but the money? Think how much we'd lose. So there's always that
but my Deadpool XP.
Yeah, there's always the room left out there to potentially bring him back. And remember, we have characters who can undo anything. Toga can clone herself into him. Like, there's a ton of different ways he could potentially come back, but the implication is that he's dying here. And if that is the case, I think this is a very effective way of doing it. His relationship with Toga is the core to, I think, really the heart of the League of Villains.
Yeah, that's the closest relationship that there is in that group. So,
and although his big heroic moment of saving Toga and Mr. Compress felt like it could have been more interesting than like he just like he cuts some dude's head off or like the back of some dude's head open. Like that moment maybe isn't the coolest. Everything like speech wise is incredibly powerful. And it's sad watching him, like, pull out his heart like that as he's just slowly melting away as well.
Yeah. There is also the interesting thing that, Hawks was shocked that Dobby knew his real name, despite the fact that he knows that, the Meta-Human Liberation Front has the resources that they do. So continuing to build up, the intrigue around this, basically the main lieutenant in the League of Villains. So.
And I do also appreciate him kind of having the real good line too of just like, oh yeah, I did it because I knew you would save him. Like I'm willing to do that. And you basically, like, after last week of being like, oh, I managed to get here because I knew you'd be too soft. And then this week following up with that. And basically just kind of feeling like Dobby knows more than Hawks. Dobby's always kind of one step ahead of him in these ways. And I feel like that really helps to build Dobby up. When we know so much about Hawks and how capable he is, but he always seems to be one, like Dobby always seems to know what to do or say to cut to him.
Dobby is the one remaining character in the full-on League of Villains where we don't know his quirk or his real name. And there's this continuing thing of like, how the hell does he know this stuff? Because there was the confrontation he had with Endeavor. There was, people trying to figure out his quirk when they were actually clashing with the metahumans before the Alliance was formed. So it is nice that every time he shows up, we get a little bit more peppered in. So thank you, phone. So that signals the character popularity poll results for Act Age was planned.
Did the Act Age alarm go off?
Yeah, I guess so. Very weird kind of Halloween-like announcement for like the character popularity poll. I completely forgot who one of these characters was, I'll admit, when they
I'll be honest, the right side of the page might as well just be question mark, question mark, question mark.
Akira is the superhero guy. He's the producer lady's son.
All right, that's who I thought he was. Well, sure. Glasses Girl was in the play?
She was in the play. She was the one I had to look.
No idea who the last girl is. That's a made-up character.
She's Kuroyama's assistant.
Nah, that's a made-up character. That's weird. Like a fiction, like a fan fiction character made into the actual popularity poll. That's insane.
I did see a thing late last night. So, when April Fool's stuff from Japan was dropping, that there was a fake announcement for an Act Rage movie. So, like, all the actor characters are going to be in a blood sport style movie. So, there's an April Fool thing. Yes.
There's been a lot of them.
Harmless enough, though. Chiyoko won, by the way. She's number one. So, I guess Kay doesn't win the play contest. So there you go. Wrap it up. Completely finish the storyline. Done. Arc over. We see a whole bunch of people talking on the street about the play, discussing which version they like more, some of the actors' performances and stuff. And hey, there's Hiragi, the character who's the sixth most popular in the manga. She's sitting there listening in on people. There you go, Chris.
I'm sure I'll remember her the next time she comes up.
So Hiragi turns outside the page and holds up a sign that says, "Hi, Chris, I'm Hiragi, the sixth most popular character in the manga. Remember me."
I sat there stroking my mustache like,
I'm more popular than the guy who's actually directing the play, and I'm his assistant.
It is actually a little surprising to me that Kuriyama isn't on there. Maybe, well, because I'd like to be like, maybe he hadn't done anything. Maybe he hadn't done anything recent to when the poll was announced, but I was like, she hasn't done shit, and the Glasses Girl certainly hasn't.
Ricky's one of the more popular characters that's outside of this top six. Like, he was like he was somewhere in the top 10, and so I think that it's characters that leave an immediate impression, and also I definitely get to the sense that the whole play arc was apparently very popular with people, considering there's Araya, there's Akira, there's Sanzaka. So
because people in the chat are saying it's the waifu factor, and I'm really having trouble processing that Act Age has people reading it for the waifus.
Oh, I definitely do.
In my mind, I'm like, that's incomprehensible.
Also male waifus, so
I'm just like, no one would do that. That's like watching Sesame Street for waifus. That's not what the program's about.
That's like reading Naruto and voting for Sasuke, even though he's such a horrible person. And who would do that?
No one would.
Okay. Anyway, so she's basically just like listening to some people. She's not really doing anything. She's just, out during her day to kind of like set the scene of like, this is what time of where in the timeline we are, basically. Then we see that there is a business meeting going on in the studio about using talent from You just buzzed at me. I'm doing actage.
Yeah, we're in the actage. The actage alarm is going off. Oh man.
Yes, I know that there's a freaking thing going on with the coronavirus. Yes, thank you. You shut the state down the way the county shut down 2 weeks ago. Good job, DeSantis. Fuck off.
That'd be great if your phone was just like, "Hey, have you heard about coronavirus?
You know that this is a bad thing.
I think you should get inside." Like,
Ron DeSantis just learned about it this morning. That's why you haven't done anything.
I'm your phone that regurgitates its news for 3-month-old aggregates. Did you hear about this stuff going on in Wuhan, China? Sounds bad.
They're calling it the something really racist. I don't want to repeat it, actually.
You should watch out. You should buy toilet paper.
And only 5 people have it right now.
Yeah, maybe it'll just blow over.
That's what'll happen, I'm sure.
I'm going to put it next to your Ebola warning messages. Any minute now, it's going to come back.
Goodbye!
I'll be here to beep in 30 more minutes and tell you Kobe Bryant died.
Oh, God. I haven't heard enough about random people dying, jeez. All right. So, some meeting going on amongst in the studio. They're like, yeah, things have been going well. We've got to get this Kei Unagi girl involved too. So apparently there's another project lining up for Kei coming pretty soon. Presumably we'll hear about that once this whole play arc is over. Meanwhile, she is out and about trying to go about her day with her brother and sister. But despite the fact that she is disguised in an impenetrable disguise that does nothing to cover her hairstyle, which is very distinct, she's getting pursued by some... They're not even paparazzi. They're just random fans. But she goes down an alleyway, and when they try to follow her, oh, she's gone because she, like, Spider-Man crawled between 2 parallel walls. So, some incredible core strength by Kei. She's got 2 children holding on to her while she's doing that. Anyway, Ricky pulls up in a car. There's someone photographing her from the car too. Anyway,
yeah, I guess the passenger, or maybe it's someone from the other side, is saying his driver.
It's his driver because he's on the Japanese driver's side.
Okay. So his driver's like, well, hey, let me sell some photos, I guess.
Yes. Or maybe like Ricky just doesn't have a regular driver and he just took an Uber. And the guy's like, Are you Ogami Okiya? Yeah. All right, I'll give you 2 stars.
And he's one of those people that gets in the front seat of an Uber?
Yeah, that's really creepy. Well, I guess he knew he was going to be picking up Kei and her siblings. So
then you could get out at that point and exchange seats.
I always ride shotgun. I've got very long legs. So anyway. Everyone's meeting up for Yakiniku, who's involved in the play, both crews, and they're going to eat. Ricky is like, I'm treating everyone cool. Then there's a weird bit because Hiragi senses at various points that there's going to be awkwardness. So she's like, hey, Araya, can you do like an impression of somebody and then just keep that up for the entire 2 hours we're going to have a meal? That way we'll avoid awkwardness by forcing you to do this one trick. It's very odd. But yeah, he starts doing impressions of people. Like Araya does an impression of Akira to begin with, and Rui, Kei's little brother, is like, oh my god, it's Kamen Rider. So there's that happens. But then Araya does an impression of Ricky, and Ricky's like, don't do an impression of me or I'll fight you.
I do enjoy that. You want to step outside? Let's do this. Let's have a fist fight over this.
So Araya takes a drink and promptly collapses because he can't control his liquor. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, how wacky. Everyone's hanging out and you see everyone's character quirks because it's so wacky. And sometimes these are really good. This was just, there. I don't find it annoying or anything because, look, trust me, whenever I think of yakiniku gathering scenes, the one that immediately springs to mind is the one that took up like an entire month of the Prince of Tennis, because they had a meat eating contest, which played off of everyone using their super tennis abilities to eat meat more quickly. And I hated it because, of course, I did.
It seems unlike you. Maybe the problem
is just there. So
I say maybe the issue is that these are normally where you like show your characters comedically at their best, and not to dunk on act age, but their characters aren't really comedic like that. Like nobody has like their comedic quirk to really like blast out.
That's him. You know how funny it is that he can't hold his liquor.
Yeah, Ogami farts every time he's at dinner. He just can't. Every time he eats meat, he just starts blasting it right out of him. Tee like it's just, I don't know.
So then it turns out that the daughter of the yakiniku restaurant's owner is wandering around, and she can't decide which of the two teams for the play to vote for. She comes across Chiyoko and Kei, definitely not doing a ship tease moment. That's not what's happening. Don't read into this, guys. There's no gaydar going off here. Nothing
So here's
to read.
The thing. There's the whole thing currently going on with We Never Learn and the Pizza Bet based on that idea. There is nothing going on between these two. There is nothing. This is 100% the author playing a joke at the audience expense. Every time something like this happens, I'm like, they're trying way too hard to make this
They know what
thing.
they're doing, though.
Yeah, there's nothing going on here. Mark my words. In the midst of the coronavirus, to help better date this statement, there is nothing romantic or sexual going on between Kei and Chiyoko.
Okay, so I will say this. She's the most credible love interest for Kei I can think of in the series.
I mean, it would be really weird if the director and her ever got together.
No, don't do that.
Maybe the dude from Stars, like the son of, like they need more time interacting, but
they're at least good friends. I could see something developing there.
Yeah.
Sure. Especially because like there's no like rivalry going on there.
Yeah, they just seem to be like
they just get along because they're Anyway, Chiyoko is doing an impression of Ricky. That is what's going on. And Hiragi's like, okay, keep doing that for 2 hours, Chiyoko. And Kiriyama's like, why do you keep on doing this? Basically. And then Ricky's like, what about that was like me? And Chiyoko's like, your hairstyle. It's like the most random thing you could name. And your hair is nothing like his. So, but then Kei is like, as your co-star, Ogami, I promise to win this. And she challenges Chiyoko to do the best impersonation of Ricky. And it's a battle between them. That's what's happening next. So again, yakiniku meeting, random pointless battle with no consequences.
No, Nick. So, no, what's going to happen is whoever wins this contest is ultimately going to who's going to win over the heart of the little girl, and she's going to push the vote button, and the phone's going to be like, "Congratulations, you're the 1 millionth vote. Meaning your vote's going to count for 17,000 times the amount of its usual value," and now determine who wins or loses.
Or it's going to be like, she votes for Chiyoko, and Kei and her team go back and are like, oh man, that could have made all the difference. And then the final vote tallies come out and they've lost by like 2 million. And they're like, oh man, now that I know we didn't even come close, I actually feel better.
You ever have like those weird like sports phobias or like habits where, so there was a point where I was like, man, I need to stop watching the game because the Giants are losing. If I do that, they won't. And I remember trying to rationalize it in my head that if I stopped watching, they were going to be getting real-time Nelson ratings, and someone was going to walk up to Eli Manning and be like, we're at 2.1 million instead of the usual 2.2, and he gets real nervous before he gets out there, and he's like, I have to earn back their respect, and just starts nailing touchdowns. And I was like, yeah, that's how the logic works in my mind. The football players are regularly told what the Nielsen ratings are as the game is currently going on.
And you just happen to be the fan who, like, it ticks down past the roundup marker.
Like, I don't have a Nielsen box, but for some reason
they're watching you.
Yeah, they like, Mr. Hilarious has stopped watching. Eli, you have to win.
It's yeah. I definitely understand that feeling, like, because it's one of those sports superstition things where you think that something you do can possibly have some impact on the game. So, I mean, during the Bucks Super Bowl run, I had a Brad Johnson Bucks jersey, and every single time I wore it, the Bucks won. So, and then once I stopped wearing it, well, you know what happened.
So you just stopped wearing it from like 2005 to current?
Basically, yes. Yeah. Except for the opening day of the follow-up season when they also won.
There you go. Fuck yeah.
So it was all my fault. I'm sorry, Tampa. That's why we had to go and spend $1 bajillion to get Tom Brady. So
for a season that may not happen.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, let's talk about Eden Zero.
Nick, let's talk about Eden Zero. Chapter 88, Eye of God, with Pino's analysis of Rebecca, which her defining special trait is leg sexiness, which is at 5 stars. So it's called Pino's analysis.
Yes.
So is that Pino's opinion on Rebecca's legs? Or does Rebecca thinks her legs are 5 out of 5 sexy?
Rebecca's sexuality has been awakened by her time being around Rebecca. Or Pino's sexuality has been awakened.
I guess so. All right, there you go.
Support robosexual equality. Come on.
Hero can't write women. Hey, we're introduced to Noah, the bad guy. You see, he's a really bad dude. We found out he's done several things, including selling Rebecca into slavery in the past. So they try to obviously fight him right off the bat because Shiki's like, fuck this guy. But turns out he's a hologram. The actual Noah's body is over in Blue Garden. And they're like, hey, well, what are you doing here then? And he explains, he's like, so my special ether gear is to be able to see other people's locations.
Yes, the Eye of God.
Yeah. And he's like, I didn't think it was that useful because with so many like technological advancements, you could find out where people are relatively easily, actually. But apparently my power transcends time itself. So I have been able to observe you as you jump back in time over and over again. I first noticed it about 10 years ago. A girl who should have passed away in a car accident instead changed her location in time.
Question. So he can witness things that occur outside of time. So he knows where Mother is, right?
Yeah, I guess if Mother's a person.
Right. After this arc is over, they'll ask him, so where's Mother? Where can we find her? And they'll be like, I don't know. My powers can't do that. So it's just, I don't know how this is supposed to work to begin with, because like he starts to explain it and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then by the end of the explanation, I was like, that doesn't make sense why he was able to see this happening. So
so it explains her first jumping was back in that car accident that we saw in her backstory, which is actually a nice touch. That's where it all happens. Yes. And he mentions like, hey, she's been doing this subconsciously. She never remembers it. And even after her life was threatened or the instant her life was lost, she's subconsciously been changing her location all this time. So the implication being that many of these adventures we've had previously, there have been kind of bad endings where if you watch it, you're like, nope, Rebecca never got rescued from Gilst where she was going to be turned into a statue for the rest of her life or something like that.
Which is honestly a cool touch. I definitely appreciate that explanation more than just they've run into Dragon Joe 29 times before this and each time it's turned out badly. Saying there have been 30 jumps throughout Rebecca's life is a bit more interesting. So
yeah, I think there's some interesting
29 jumps.
And reading the story again, you would kind of almost be able to pick up like, I wonder if this is maybe something that changed. Like this is something that very easily couldn't have happened maybe the previous time, but something like that. He says, this is the 30th time. I call this world number 30. I don't know. Maybe that sounds a lot better in Japanese, but that sounds horrendous the way. This is the 30th world. That's why I call it world number 30. No shit. Fuckface. Everyone would. So Rebecca's like, so when I was called number 29, he's like, yes, that was you in world 29, and somehow you're in world number 30, and you've retained your memories from the previous world, which means in world 30, it's the only world in which Draken can be defeated. And everyone's like, what the fuck does that mean? And Rebecca's like, does that mean this is the last time I can use my power? He's like, I don't know. Now that you ask more specific questions, nobody really knows what your power can do.
I have a very mysterious monologue to give. Hold your questions till the end of the lecture because I'm really bad at thinking of stuff on my feet.
He's like, yeah, it's in this situation, Draken, the situation between you has become more perilous than it was previously. Draken's goal is to obtain your power. And in World 29, you hadn't awakened your power, so he imprisoned you for 7 days after Shiki's death. I don't really know to what end. He doesn't offer anything more, so he's like, it seems kind of weird, but whatever. But now that those power has awakened, it means he's not going to imprison you. If he defeats you, your powers are forfeit. And if that happens, you won't be able to change your location and time, and Draken's world number 2 will begin. So it's like, okay, we can't let him beat Rebecca, or he gets the Cat Leaper powers.
Because in this case, he doesn't have to wait around for her powers to awaken. He'll just extract them right away if he captures her. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Weiss is like, how do you know everything that's going to happen in the future? And he's like, I guess because I could see everyone's place at time. I just kind of guessed, and I guessed right. I'm very smart. And he's like, I've done some inexcusable things to all of you. It was I who sold Rebecca to Gilst and who sold her information to Draken. But I did it for a reason. I did it all to defeat Draken Joe. And I'm like, what a stupid fucking reason. If they make this guy into like an anti-hero or a hero, this is the fucking most dumb garbage you can possibly do.
But look at how handsome he is, Chris. He can't be a bad guy.
I really sincerely hope the character's like, no, fuck you. You're a scumbag. Why couldn't you have just talked to us directly? Be like, hey, I think Rebecca could jump different places into time, and that ability might be pretty useful at stopping the bad guys of the universe. It's like, who knows what time parallels I would change if I tried bringing that up to you.
Then why are you telling us now?
The time was right. So we go over to the fight over on the planet. I forget what the name of Draken Joe's satellite is. We're seeing different fights going on. Legrand or Laguna is his name, is fighting against Sister or Witch, and he's like, it's not working very well. Yeah. I don't like fighting androids because I can't use my signature move on someone who doesn't shed tears. And she's like, oh, but we do shed tears. After all, we have hearts. And I really want like his response to be like, no, I mean, like, I'm not trying to undermine your humanity. I just mean physically you don't shed tears. That's mechanically how my power... Look, I'm not trying to take away your identity as a person. I'm just saying mechanically it's very frustrating. My entire build is useless against you.
Laguna's very conscious of getting canceled. So he's like, no, listen, no, I recognize that. I'm woke. I'm trying to turn you into water, okay?
I put a lot of points into this build, and it's fucking worthless against robots, all right? That's all I'm saying.
I've maxed it to fuck.
I do one thing really well, and it doesn't work against you people for some reason.
What do you mean you people? Oh, no!
Oh, no! What am I doing? Hermit hacks one of Fire Dude's drones and shoots him.
What's the matter, Chris?
The fucking whatever whatever does his little torture dance because he's like, I've done 60 days of no torture, and then Sister kicks him in the balls, and she's like, 60 days, that's cute, and she has a 10-year coin for not torturing as a dominatrix, and she throws the coin at his butt. It's really bad.
Wasn't she like offline for a while? So
I think that's how she justifies it. Maybe like you just say she got the coin.
She just checked her mail after being asleep for a while. I was like, oh, they sent me my 10-year coin.
Because literally, if we watch the fucking other world this took place in, she totally broke it and was torturing that slime girl. Like, that definitely happened.
Yeah, she was regularly torturing Moskoy.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? So it's going to be Homura against the Wind Girl, Sylph. And she's like, I lost you twice previously, but I won't lose to you now that I'm Valkyrie. And it's like, all right, I wonder what she can do to kind of stop Sylph's very powerful ability to just suck everything up with her wind. And it just doesn't work anymore without everyone mentioning it.
You see, I have a new type of armor, sword, that lets me counter this exact fight.
So I guess she is
Homura, your hair's looking a little red right now. What's up with that?
So, yeah, she creates winds, I guess, that swirl around her, which means Sylph's winds can't get in there to suck everything away and destroy her. Although, based on...
He says that she can cleave the wind with this sword dancing form. So, I guess she is stopping the wind.
I guess she's cutting the wind. It's not exactly clear.
Can't be doing that. That's
someone else's thing. Yeah. And then someone says, you want to defeat Draken, the guy who put Rebecca in all that danger? And he says, is there a problem? You have yet to learn how truly terrifying Draken could be. And we see Draken waking up in like a tube of water or something. Or maybe just underwater. Maybe he's like, he might be drowning in that hot tub we first saw him. Someone should pull him out.
It's like...
He's like, oh, my eyes...
I can't stand up.
My eyes suggest that I'm in control, but I'm secretly dying.
An up and down chapter. There are some parts of the explanation I like, and some that don't make any sense whatsoever. There are some fights that look like they're going to be interesting, and some that do not. So, a mixed bag. That's really all I have to say about it.
Yep.
All right, Chris. Let's move on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 10, Mash Van Dead and the Potions Problem. So we get introduced to the four houses of Hogwarts in this chapter. The three dorms of Easton Magic Academy, Adler, Orca, and Lang.
We could just call them what they actually are. Gryffindor, Other One, and Slytherin.
You gotta choose between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. You can't just have them both be one, Chris.
It's just... In this world, it's just whatever one exists that's not Gryffindor and Slytherin.
So, everyone is divided into these different dormitories, and class assignments and activities are grouped by them. It's the Hogwarts houses. So, in the Adler dorm, Mash has 2 parts of a silver coin, and so the little triangular pie piece things, it turns out if you put them all together, that makes 1 gold coin. That's why they're shaped that way. It's like playing Trivial Pursuit.
And the coins, I presume, magically create the face on top of it. Otherwise, you're like, well, I have 4 pieces, but it doesn't look like a scale afterwards. So
I would assume that it would have to, because that would be very inconvenient.
It would be very funny, though.
It's like how, like, when you press your luck, but you reach a certain threshold, you can't go below that one. So Mash is like, all right, I need 5 silver coins to make 1 gold coin. That's 5 minus 2. Just 28 left. It's like, you mean 3? And Mash is like, it's a trick question? No, that's just how math works.
All right, 5 minus 2, just 28 left. You're like, all right, I forgot. If it's not about working out, he's bad at everything.
It's just the total level of wrongness of such a simple problem is like, oh, Mash, you're lucky, you're adorable. So, it's like, all right. Anyway, it's a good thing that I don't have anything going on today. Finn's like, yeah, it's nice and relaxing. No way, we have homework.
My favorite part is you can tell clearly how this punchline is going to go. To like, isn't it nice that there's nothing going on? And then you see the both of them like the ... and Finn's freaking out, but Mash is still like, oh, there's something to do. Like, he's not also like, oh, we have homework to do. He's just like, oh, really? Like, if he hadn't mentioned it, Mash definitely would have came to class and been like,
not have done it. Absolutely not. He forgot about a meeting with a guy who specifically said, "Meet me here." So I guess if his friends aren't in danger, he just forgets everything. Right. Anyway, he's just trying to get them to eat cream puffs and stuff. Finn's freaking out about what they're going to do. And hey, Lance shows up.
Hey.
And so that's like, oh, it's the sister complex guy. That is who he is. You're correct. So Lance is like, listen up, you slifer slackers. I mean, it's... So anyway, he's like, you guys are going to ruin the dorm's reputation, so have some shame. And Mash just reaches out towards Lance and I guess snatches his locket, and then flips it open, and Lance sees the picture of his sister, and he goes flying into the wall as if he were punched really hard. We've got too many sister complex guys in Shonen Jump. Like,
I mean, at least this one, they're leaning into the joke a lot with it. Like, whereas, like...
He's not creeping on her constantly, too.
Yeah.
So. They're also being like, what a fucking weird sister complex asshole you are. So, he starts to, like, die for a little while, and Finn's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then Lance says, okay, you guys are going to need this for the assignment, a Mandragora! And he basically... This version of a Mandragora is basically a radish with arm and leg roots and a very ugly face that screams a lot. Fortunately, it doesn't actually immediately paralyze them. And so he's like, once you silence them, they're a really useful ingredient. And Mash is like, oh no, we're going to have to use magic. Yes. Lance casts a spell to make the Mandragora fall asleep. Finn has difficulty getting his to be quiet, and Mash is like, your center of gravity is off. You need core training. Here, give me your wand. And then he casts the spell, and the Mandragora starts to scream much louder. I don't know how that works, but okay. So Lance gives some, some instructions to Finn, and he manages to actually put his to sleep. And they're like, see, even a slacker like you could do it. Thanks. How's Mash doing? It's bigger for some reason. And it's screaming louder and louder, and they're like, oh no, what's good? Look out! And Mash fucking slaps it across the face, and hey, it falls asleep. Good job, Mash.
I do just love boom, and just, oh, it's just gone.
He's like, I did it. Lance gives some more instructions because they have to create a compound with the Mandragora. He chops it up like he's doing, like he's a master chef, basically. Finn is intimidated what they've got to do. Mash is like, got it. Does the exact same thing that Lance does. Somehow it turns into a cream puff. I don't know how, but it does. So Lance has very little patience for this. He's like, all right, here, start like this. Okay, now add this. Okay, now stir. Okay, now add this. Okay, and it somehow turns into a cream puff.
He's like, but I watched him do it from start to finish. How did this happen?
When did it just turned into it?
It always reminds me of this joke, because Simpsons did it, where Homer's trying to make food for Mr. Burns, and everything keeps lying on fire, and eventually just pours milk into cereal, and then the catches fire, and it's like,
So, Lance is like, wow, you're only good at fighting. Mash agrees with him, and Lance warns him, next time I won't lose to you. There's a reason I need to join the Bureau of Magic. But he refuses to tell Mash what it is. He says, you fought me to a draw in Might of One. If you let some nobody steal those coins from you, there will be hell to pay. And Mash is like, well, that won't happen. And so Lance puts his headband back on. He's like, all right, let's try again. But also Mash is like, why'd you take your headband off in order to tell me that? But oh no, we cut to a dark and mysterious, ominous-looking room where there's like a freaking upside down. Well, it's not upside down. It's a cross. It's a cross to let you know that they're evil. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the only. Look, what else reason would you have to have a cross unless you're evil?
I don't know.
Checkmate, atheists.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, and I got it.
There's a guy who's got a weird, creepy doll in his arm, and he says, "The divine visionaries are the ones who mold the world and rule it. Tell me, what trait should a ruler possess?" And one of them says, "Be a Slytherin. Very good. In other words, no one from Adler is worthy of coins. We from Langdorm are the true rulers. Now go and take back what's ours." Mash has made another cream puff. And this guy who is leading everyone has 3 lines on his face, including 2 parallel ones. So the implication is that he is very strong.
I'm really looking forward to the point where we see an extremely powerful character and there's like 90 lines across their face, and that's just the joke. It's just like, oh, I can't see anything, throw my lines of power. Which, hey, we very well might get to that point because Mashle has been doing extremely well in the rankings.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually at the point now where you're actually going to start seeing it reflected in where it shows up in the magazine. So, yeah. All right, mission Yozakura family, mission 30, shopping trip. Unlike that, what that title might imply, this is about a shopping trip.
I love somebody's response to this, which is like, I don't know how fucking Tayo goes into a shopping mall and they're like, it's a spy shop. And he's like, this exists. And it's like, motherfucker, this has been your life for like the past 8 months. Of course it is. You can't keep being shocked by this.
That's why Mutsumi actually loves it, is because he just never loses that childish naivete that she loves so much. Oh, you're so sweet and stupid. This is a joke chapter. I mean, it's, them going about their lives. Oh, hey, look at the wacky spy stuff that exists in this world. It's not bad. I'll say that, mostly because it involves the entire family as opposed to just making jokes about Kyoichiro's sister complex. There is a little bit of that in here, but he only gets as much screen time, or even less, really, than like all the other siblings. So it's okay. There's just a bunch of jokes in this. It's not a very consequential chapter.
There's 2 things I want to note. One, I actually was kind of, when they first started to introduce the concept, I was like, I actually would be kind of interested. Since we keep going down this route, I do kind of want to see how the economy of a world that spies are just a common kind of thing functions. Like it would be kind of interesting to be like, well, spies need to buy things too. So they go into this mall and they have to like kind of secretly operate around and access these things instead of it just constantly being jokes about how that exists and Tayo's like flabbergasted by it.
Mm-hmm.
But 2, I also really like when the gun guy's in the store and he has 2 guns and his sister's like, buy the one in your other hand. I know what you do. You always, 85% of the time, you're going to choose whatever's in your right-hand side. And then when you get home, there's 97% chance that you're going to regret what you bought. So if you just get what's in your left hand, like now, you're going to, like, 99% chance you're just going to be right. It's like, I kind of like that she's just anecdotally doing it. He's like, oh, sweet. And runs out with his gun.
And she's just like, you fucking idiot. Eventually, there is a little bit of a plot that happens because there's a girl that's been separated from her father. Turns out, oh no, he owes some people money and stuff. They take her into the underground part of the mall, and oh hey, Tayo's there, so they're like, "You've got a bounty!" So he's got to fight his way out. But hey, the rest of the family is there to back him up because Kyoichiro is like, only I am allowed to torture him. But that's about the only thing that happens. And there's one last, big group shot of the entire family fighting off a bunch of thugs. And as they're leaving, the mall collapses and the entire mall is a floor shorter as a result because of that. And that's the chapter. There's a cool shot that I really like at the very end when it shows them all collapsing because it shows the entire family in silhouette walking away with their shopping bags in tow. It's a cool shot. So it was an all right chapter. Not a whole lot to talk about in it, though.
No,
so
not a ton. Not like Zipman. Zip.
16 True Feelings. Last time I was like, well, this series is going to be over this week. No. At least one more week.
That's what you think, fools.
Turns out there's way more plot than you thought would be covered that will take 2 or maybe even 3 chapters to cover instead of just 1. I don't know. I haven't gotten word yet on if it's actually ending next week. It doesn't seem like there's a lot left that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the chairman tries to pull Koshiro's soul back into him, but Kaname's like, I'm not going to let that happen, attaches the zipper to his own suit, and he starts experiencing their childhood memories from Koshiro's perspective, and he also feels what Koshiro was feeling at that time as well, and what Koshiro has felt basically about their relationship with each other and with Chirai? China. I got her confused with Dragon Ball Girl. So
yeah.
So like every time that Kaname tried to do something physical, Koshiro would fail. So Koshiro's like, I'm never going to be able to beat Kaname, and then that's when their paths diverged, according to what Kaname says. But Koshiro says that's not how our paths didn't diverge. And Kaname looks up, and Koshiro's there. I don't know if this is also a vision or what, but anyway, there's like a giant chairman behind him that's like got cables winding around him and going into his stomach, and it's taking him over. And Koshiro's like, I separated myself from you. And he tries to make Kaname keep away, and he's like, before I lose all reasoning, listen to me. You saw my memories. You always said, I'm going to win and make China smile. But you beat me a long time ago, and then this happened to me, and we got to be Zipman together, and I was really happy. I felt like I got to relive a path that I'd given up on. But after working together, I realized that you're the lead, I'm a supporting role. And I was completely happy that way. It was fun. I'm fine with that. The Jackman that can make China smile is your Zipman, Kaname. And so he's like, my soul's gonna be overwritten, so get away from me. Destroy my zipper, or else, White Zipman is going to kill China. So go save China and save the world. But Kaname instead rushes into him, and he's like, that's not what I'm about anymore. And he starts to pull on the zipper sticking out of Koshiro's chest, which is like slowly unraveling, and he starts to yank it down. And he's like, listen to me. I was always competing against you until the day you disappeared, and I felt this frustration and sadness. It was confusing, but when you came back and we were Zipman together, I was happy too. When I lost you for a second time, I finally realized how I felt. It's not about who wins or China. Come back, Koshiro. Without you, it's not fun at all. And gasp, the Zipman's collapse, but then as the chairman sends more goons after China, both Zipman stand up and clasp hands, and Koshiro's like, hey, wake up, Kaname. And then they're both facing off against the chairman together, as the chairman unzips the entire building around his fortress, and it turns into a huge, massive zip jack suit thing. And the chairman declares, if I want the world to change, I'll have to do it myself.
And then he grabs the Infinity Gauntlet. You have to wait for Phase 3 to be over to actually see the Infinity War come together.
That's right. Sure. Kaname and Koshiro briefly bicker, but then they're like, all right, we're going back to our competition. We'll settle this after we kick the chairman's butt.
This is where some really cool music plays, like a Crush 40 song.
On the Black
Knight. Da 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 da.
No.
It's like, I go to Live and Learn too often. I need another song.
Seven rings in ham, bada something sand.
Something genie, I think. It was Arabian themed.
Brush 40 didn't actually originally do this song. They did a cover of it.
Sonic's Hedgehog, but now he's a werewolf because it's Sonic Unleashed. Oh, damn it. Who did Team Dark theme from Sonic Heroes? We all dance in fire.
That one I don't know.
Trouble is machine. It's a good song.
I am the Eggman. That's what I am.
Whoa, it's the Pumpkin Hill rap. What's the line from that everyone pulls to?
My name is Knuckles. I'm like Sonic and Elton Chuckle.
Hold on, Pumpkin Hill lyrics. There's definitely like a line I feel like that always gets brought up.
Definitely a weird one in that one. I can't remember that song exactly though.
Well, yeah, there's the Great Emerald one. That one's a weird one. You know what? We'll listen to it later. We have manga to talk about, guys, including question 153, X Thumbelina Supercomputer Part 3 of We Never Learn. And hey, Nick, this one is actually relevant to the story.
It only took. If it happened, they started to slowly crank up the plot a little bit.
It only took until number 3 to get it going. So we go back to the Christmas chapter, and we get some new things where Ogata's like, "Hey, Yuiga, will you play a game with me?" And then we're at a beach udon shop. I don't really know why, but we are. And there's a bunch of jokes. It's worth noting this is the first time we actually see any of the other girls because Fumino also is working there, as well as Asumi. At least I thought Asumi was here. No, I guess it's just Fumino. Never mind. I started making up characters. The Ghost Girl's following them, though. There's a moment where Ogata's like, "Hey, there's supposed to be a rock around here. It looks like rabbit ears. Would you want to go see it together? Just the two of us?" And Yuiga's like, And then the ghost tries to pull off her bikini top because the ghost feels jealous and is tired of them flirting. So Yuiga has to grab the ghost and then run away and can't really answer the question. So cut over.
Were you talking about Fist Metal Crack'em?
No, I just remember there being some really weird. I can't
narrow it down because there's so many weird ones in all of those songs.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to listen to it later, and I'm sure I'm gonna find it. Yeah, hold on. I got lost now. Anyway, Fumino and Ogata are talking, and she's like, "Hey, are you guys having challenges at college or something?" She's like, "Oh, it's the astronomy classes are great, but never mind about that. How are things between you and Yuiga these days?" It's like, it seems like you were being pretty flirty, so I was wondering, are you guys dating? And she has a little blush thing. So presumably in this timeline, Fumino still has feelings. She's just never admitted them, which is a little sad when you think about it. Because you're like, oh God, Fumino's been holding this in for 2 years now. Oh God, this is just going to erupt in her therapy one day, 6 years down the line from this.
Yeah, I guess the timeline diverging as far back as it did, you do have to question how much character development got undone with the characters.
So Ogata's like, we're just playing a game. And then she walks off, and the ghost girl's following her because she has to kind of be tethered to somebody who lives at the apartment. And Ogata's thinking to herself, a few minutes ago, did he dodge my invitation? I shouldn't read too much into this. This is just a game. And to go back to that Christmas where after they've cleaned up, Yuiga's like, yeah, it's really fun playing your grandmother's game. And even though we should probably be studying for exams. And she's like, you know what? I think I like him. I think I actually really like him. And she's like, hey, what do you think it means for a couple to be entwined by fate? Because this is the more relevant thing, that she was the fireworks girl. So now that kind of changes the context because we never knew who it was. Now we could be like, all right, so that Christmas scene happens under the impression that both of them have recognized, hey, we held hands during the fireworks ceremony when there was that big urban legend that, two people are doing that. When it happens, they'll be intertwined. So I do kind of like the way this is presenting where it expands upon that scene by being like, hey, because this truth is now out there, this changes this. So he's like, well, it means they become a couple and they get romantic and stuff. But, are you talking about that whole superstition at the school? It's just a legend. So Ogata hugs onto him. And she's like, oh, you mean like this? And he's like, oh, but I told you don't do this stuff if you're curious. And she says, well, I guess he just doesn't see me that way. for now. It's almost like evil, like for now.
Nariyuki Uiga.
She's like, I broke Uega's phone the day Uruko was headed toward the airport, so she couldn't contact him to express her feelings.
And then as the plane was taking off, it was such a shame the way that the fuel line had been cut. Perhaps
they'll find her, swimming as she always liked to do in the Pacific Ocean. Like, oh my God.
When Asumi finally got into that nursing school, who could have predicted that the virus had been released in the hospital she worked in?
And who would have ever thought, ironically, Kirisu Sensei would be pushed in front of a tractor trailer? Like that one.
The Kirisu Sensei would fall on my knife 5 times.
Would get shot 6 times in the heart by me.
Oh my God, Fumino's in danger. Nah, I like her. She's cool.
Yeah. Me and her, we tight. We ain't.
Or tries to get in touch to get close to him.
I'll cut her tits off and make jello out of them.
Jesus Christ.
So she's like, hey, what's wrong with being curious? And why don't you play a game with me? And then she says, if you win, then we prove that the jinx is a superstition. But if we can't prove it and you really fall in love with me, then I win. And Uega's like, why would you joke around like this? Like, that seems kind of weird. Or do you have, like, feelings for me? And she's like, I'm just purely curious. You told me once that you'd always be willing to play a game with me. And he's like, oh, I kind of didn't mean it like this. And she says, are you afraid of losing? So he's like, all right, you're on. And I'll teach you something about pure, decent romantic relationships. I mean, not that I'm an expert. And that's how we kind of got started into all of this.
It's bizarre. I don't know how I feel about this yet. On the one hand, this seems very obtuse and ass backwards. I will say that, I mean, because it's Ogata doing this, it's not out of character for her to take this weird approach. It's weird that Uiga is so willing to go along with it. And I do get the sense that this is just the only thing that Susui could think of to actually get these two to hook up was, well, what if they tried fake dating and then decided they liked it?
Yeah, so it is kind of weird that Ogata's storyline seems to be contingent on the idea that she has to convince Uega to, like, want to fall in love with her, basically.
So how did Uiga and Ogata start dating? Well, they started dating.
And eventually they were like, I guess this is cool, and they kept doing it. So she's like, I don't really know what we are to each other right now, as Ogata gets to the bunny ear thing. And she's like, I just ended up coming here alone, just wandering around lost in thought. That's kind of depressing. And then Uega's there, and he's like, what am I doing here? You're the one who's late. You told me you wanted me to come out here, so, you know, I came out here. And Fumino said that she was worried about you, that she seemed kind of down, so wanted to see if you're okay. And she's very excited. She's like, I'm super okay, beyond a picometer of a doubt. And somewhere out in the distance, you see 1mm Yuta be like, bitch stole my gimmick!
I'll sink her into acid!
Like, the hero I am! So she's like, all right, we're going to enjoy this rabbit ear rock, even if it takes all night, which is an insane thing. Look, I appreciate modern, like, natural landmarks as much as anyone. Rock shaped like a bunny head. I don't know how that's going to entertain me enough for all night.
Hey, that rock's shaped like a bunny head. Yes, it is.
All right, let's keep going. There's a stand that sells hot dogs with French fries on them. Let's run to it before it closes. That's more interesting than the bunny hat to me. But they're like, hey, you know what? It's probably a little too much for me to suggest it all night. But that's when they realize, the place where the bunny head rabbit is inaccessible during high tide. they're trapped on that island.
Okay, two things. One, how did they not notice that high tide was coming in? Because that happened really quickly. Because one of them had to have just arrived at the rock. Mm-hmm. It's not a very big rock. And two, Yuiga's already been in this situation before, stuck on an island with someone. So
was it Ogata?
No, I think it was Curious.
Yeah, I know. So. It's like, then this really seems awkward. That'd be great if he ends up falling for Kirisu in the Ogata.
He's just like, man, you know what this reminds me of? When Kirisu Sensei and I were stuck here, she was really hot in her swimsuit.
Fumino,
as Ogata's like, did I mention that my boobs got even bigger?
He's like, yeah, whatever, cow tits. Could you build me a tent so I can whack off to my feelings of Kirisu? Or whatever, just turn around, I guess.
And take the ghost girl with you. There's a ghost here? She like falls off the rock and drowns, and Yuga's like, finally alone.
Good. I won't need that tent after all. Hey, that's one way to get rid of that.
Series in Shonen Jump.
That's one way to get rid of that ghost.
All right. Let's move on to Dr. Stone.
It's time to get stoned.
It is chapter Z equals 145. Bar Francois. So Ryusui declares that they're going to just basically flat out open like a casino on the Perseus to keep the crew entertained. And he justifies this by saying, if we're going to cut our travel time, we need to, keep the crew's, lifestyle up. We need to have recreation and everything. So this will cut off about, if we give them more rations, that'll cut off 10 days of travel, and this will cut off another 10. So we've got to find something that'll eliminate the final 10 days in order to keep our schedule. Of course, it makes sense that they get to increase the rations because there's less travel time to worry about. So Senku says, with food and fun taken care of, all that's left is drinks. And Francois has a bar set up. Okay. And so it was like, we get booze? And Suiko's like, I can't drink alcohol. Aw. But Francois says, I intend to primarily focus on virgin cocktails. And I intend to craft a personalized cocktail for every guest. So they start off by having to actually create gum syrup in order to make the drinks. So we get the process of that. There's a very, very disturbing reaction image when Gen and Kaseki and Chrome are like, why are you mixing toxic into this thing we're going to drink? And Gen's tongue sticks all the way out and pokes Senku in the eye. It's very gross. 6 feet separation, man. Come on.
Yeah, come on, Dr. Stone. Get with the social distance.
Stone.
Dr. Stone. I'm sorry. Nick, this isn't tea. This is just hard liquor. It's been a tough April Fool's Day.
Basically, Senku's like, yeah, would you put all these poison things together? They actually meet something that's completely harmless and is very sweet to drink. So, hooray. It's basically not a completely the exact same thing that is actually used in order to make these beverages, but it's something very similar to it. Anyway,
I do love like the one message that's like, don't try this at home, you could die.
Basically. Francois makes a beverage for Suika, which includes a little piece of cucumber in the shape of her helmet, which is very cute. Suika starts to drink it, then Francois is like, hey, haven't you ever read Bartender? Once you've drunk half of it, take that little imitation of your helmet and put it in the glass, and it changes the flavor. It makes it taste like watermelons. How cute. They go through this stuff for a number of characters. There's one for Tsukasa. There's one for Kohaku. There's one for Gen. And I'm not going to go through all of them. It's just like, this is why this fits their personality. Read the chapter if you're curious. And afterwards, Seku's,
I'll say this. A lot of them sound really good And there was one where they even open it with like, oh, we have a bunch of chai syrup. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to really like this one. And it's for Gen's spicy cola drink. And I was like, that sounds awful. He drinks, he's like, yo, that's hot. Cola for adults. And I was like, regular cola, not for adults. You're just like, I like drinking mixed drinks, but I don't want that baby Coca-Cola in my drink. That's for children and babies.
There is also a running gag going through them a little bit as Yo is witnessing this, and as time keeps going by and all these virgin cocktails are getting made, he's just like, there's no booze here.
No booze?
Booze? And then Kahaka's like, oh, wow, imagine coming up with all these drinks from natural ingredients. And Senku says, well, everything that exists in this world is a natural ingredient. Ukyo is like, yeah, every cocktail fits its guest perfectly. Almost too perfectly, like pieces falling into place. Thanks to the poker game, the casino is a roaring success, and the crew gets this bar as another fringe benefit, as if to imply that now we can weather the harsh voyage. Whether it was Ryusui or Senku who won the game, I have a feeling we would have arrived at the same outcome. So, hey, I am Ukyo. This is why I am one of the smarter characters. It doesn't get actually utilized very often, but I kind of know what was going on here. So, and then Gen's like, you're overthinking it. Hush. So, but then Gen says, I was giving it my all in the poker game. It would have been exciting otherwise. So my loss was a bit frustrating, Senku. So there's kind of a little bit of a kind of quiet rivalry sort of simmering here. One-sided on Gen's part, it seems like. And then there's a one-page spread of Senku for some reason. Gen wants that ass, I guess. Anyway. Francois presents Senku with his cocktail, the 3-layer tea latte. And Francois justifies this by saying it represents the layered cumulative nature of science. And Senku's like, it's all going in my mouth. Why don't I just mix it together? Francois's like, you pleb. Should you choose to blend them beautifully, then those layers of scientific achievement will combine to become an ever so slightly sweet latte. There's no booze! And that's it.
So I mentioned on Twitter that I was like, there's 2 really, really good chapters this week. We already talked about one, and then we're going to be talking about the other one after this. But that said, there's a real chance I may still give my chapter of the week to Dr. Stone this week, because I don't know why. I just really love the goofy everyone gets a cocktail chapter. Like, it hits the right notes. Like, I like that it's a chapter that shows off Francois and their ability to kind of like analyze the crew and see what they want.
Yeah.
And I do like these stupid mixed drinks. And I don't know, it works for me in a level that it probably shouldn't. But I was like, fuck, I want to see everyone's mixed drinks. Yeah. Maybe it's also just that I'm stuck at home and I'm sitting here like, maybe I could mix together a grenadine and tonic. I hate tonic, but maybe.
I do think it's nice to get this, a little bit of it's kind of like just a bonus thing. Mm-hmm. The kind of thing you would release in like a character book, like, you've got, a thing that you can make for each of the characters, that kind of thing. And I do think it also really reflects how established and distinct the characters in the cast are, that you look at a number of them and are just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me why it's that way. Tsukasa's got this really classy thing. Suika's got a very sweet drink with a cute little decoration on it and stuff. And then there's Gen's weird spicy cola. And it's like, why would you ever have a spicy soda?
Spicy cola just sounds so bad.
Oh, man. We're so sophisticated and refined, Chris.
Mm-hmm. As I'm drinking tea that's gotten cold, and I'm like, I guess I'll just push it down at this point.
I'm from the South. That's how you're supposed to drink tea.
Yeah, like iced or something like that. Not hot tea that's just gotten cold.
Just lukewarm. Room temperature tea. A specialty.
Room temperature backwater tea. Backwash tea, my favorite. Maybe I'll mix it in with a little wood cleaner as well.
Hang on, it's not quite the right balance. Let me go get the bartender to spit in this, and then I'll be ready for you.
Yeah, as I'm like, though they have only one drink I can get. Give me a Jersey Turnpike, which infamously is a drink where the bartender just wipes the counter down and then squeezes it into a glass.
All right.
Hey.
Oh, man. Chapter Nintendo 64. Welcome to hell.
Why don't we do that every time it's a chapter 64?
I didn't think of it until now. We'll have to keep it in mind from now on, I guess.
Everyone, scream at us to do that. Also, Nick, your arm count's going up a lot this week.
Yeah, it is. Guess it's a good reason we picked up Chainsaw Man, even if it wasn't, even if it hadn't gotten really good right when we did. Okay, so, they're in hell now. There are doors all across the sky. There are fucking fingers littered all over the ground. There's a bathtub there. And literally everyone that was in the building is there as well. Denji is still beaten up from getting, crucified. So they lean over him. I guess it's Aki who does this. Yeah, it is. Because the bodyguard who looks kind of like him is outside the building, right? He pulls on Denji's cord, and the chainsaw blade emerges about half a foot from his head and then stops, and Denji just kind of rides the ground going, "Ow!" So Chuan-Chi recognizes that he's not fully turning into a chainsaw man, which she thinks is because he doesn't have enough blood, but she recognizes after Aki is staring her down that, hey, let's call a truce because something's wrong with the fiends. And her two girlfriends who came inside and Power are all really freaking out, as is the Violence Devil. So Aki's like, hey, Angel Devil, what the fuck is this? And the Angel Devil's like, we are so fucked. We're in hell. We've been cast into hell by a devil's power. And then she's like, there's a chainsaw blade sticking out of my head and it hurts. So Chuan-Chi turns to her two girlfriends that are with them. Their names are Long and Ping-Si. I don't know which is which. Presumably Long is the one who speaks first, I guess. So Ping-Si, which is the head on a ponytail girl, says that she feels like she's losing her mind. We're being watched by a dangerous devil. Far beyond here, devils far more dangerous than some gun devil. They're the transcendent, devils who have never once experienced death. The devils with the names of the primal fears are watching us. The very instant we draw their hostility, will die. So she asks for if she can kill herself. And she's like, no, we gotta get us out of this. And she's gonna be like, we're gonna die. Because she's like, it's here, the darkness devil. And one of the doors in the sky opens up, a shadow descends to the ground, and as it approaches them, I'm sorry, this is just really weird, okay? It's not that there are corpses with their legs cut off, lined up directly in front of it. It's that they're corpses that are praying, lined up in parallel with their legs standing up out of the ground across from them, and they're all dressed as astronauts.
It's pretty fucking metal.
So, yeah.
Like, I was like, man, this series is going to make so many cool metal album covers one day.
So Aki and the others are all standing waiting for this darkness to approach. I
also love Aki draws his sword. You can see that like Kwanzi's doing something, and then the dude behind Aki's like, I'm gonna punch this dude out of his darkness still out if he gets up to me. Like, it doesn't look like he has special hands or anything like that, so I really want this dude to come up and be like, I have no devil, but I punched a mean right hook.
There's just like a devil hunter who's just like, he throws one punch. It's always the same punch, and it's always like a really weird punch. Like, it's not like a jab or a snap jab or a hook or an uppercut. It's just like, the punch thrown by someone who doesn't know how to throw a punch. You're like, ah! And yet it always defeats the devil he punches.
Oh, punch to the jaw, my one weakness.
Damn it, his martial art has no form. So they're lining up, ready for this darkness devil to attack them. A frog croaks. I don't know why a frog croaks, but a frog croaks. It goes ribbit. And then the darkness devil is standing among them, and all of their arms have flown off and are now in the sky, hovering in a circle around him, as he stands there looking all proud with his body made of other things' bodies.
We've had a couple people tweet us that if you read the arms in the sky, it kind of spells Makima. You kind of have to trace it to like make it make full sense. If you check our Twitter mention, someone's shown a little bit more. It's not exactly enough that I'd be like, yeah, definitely it spells it. But it's close enough that it doesn't feel like that's not what it's going for.
It could be that. I'll give you that. I do have to kind of squint to see it, but yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone's arms have flown off, and they're not even, like, in pain or anything. They're just like, my arms are gone!
I kind of feel like I needed those.
So what was his face? The, the Master's Apprentice from the previous chapter. I forget his... Begins with a T, doesn't it?
Yeah, Troka or something like Tulsa? Nah, I thought I had it.
Tolka. That was it. Anyway, he, also with his arms missing, kneels before the Darkness Devil and declares, I am the Doll Devil. I've brought you Chainsaw's heart as per the contract. Please give me the power to kill Makima. And everyone's watching this and is like, holy fuck, what's going on? We get a flashback to the grandfather's requests to the government for performing the contract, Santa Claus's requests. And after requesting it, there was a note sitting on the bench after the guy left. And he reads it, and it says something in German. Makima kann dich holen, der Tag ist Untergangs, ich nach, tot Makima.
I think, from what I understand, some people have like kind of roughly translated, and it's something like Makima can hear you. The day of reckoning is near. Kill Makima. Something along those general lines.
It definitely says Makima twice. So, so this woman who was Toka's master is resting on one of the dolls outside. And a hand appears in front of her, emerging from the frame the same way that the finger appeared in the last chapter. And it's holding a glob of darkness between its finger and thumb. It offers it to her. She says, a piece of the Darkness Devil's flesh. And she takes it in her mouth and swallows it. And that is the end of the chapter. So shit's getting real. So this was really good, I will say. So.
Yeah, it's very crazy. The art's incredible. It's cool to see one of these primordial demons then based on one of the primordial fears. And I'd be kind of curious because I mentioned like they're based off the primordial fears. Have demons gotten stronger since like humanity's kind of evolved? Like they're like, yes, there were other fears like darkness and sickness and etc. Now ordering pizza by the phone has also gotten extremely powerful. I guess people choose to do it online. They just don't like interact with people over the phone. It's a little intimidating. Shaking hands demon got a lot stronger recently.
Okay.
All right, Nick, let's talk about it. 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 346. Like that sky.
It's actually over this time.
Yeah,
mostly.
The final chapter, and it's a big color spread. You get to see all the characters, and you can even see little Escanor on like a pillar by himself, illuminating a beam of light.
He went to heaven.
Mm-hmm. So we open the chapter with Tristan, the son of Meliodas and Elizabeth, and yeah, I guess if you told me to create a character who was the son of the two of those characters, that's probably what I'd create. It has
he actually looks disturbing to me because of the traits that he shares with the two of them.
He basically took a little bit of all of their stuff. Like he has Elizabeth's 2 different eye colors. I forget the medical term. Yeah. There you go. But I think one of the eyes is still Melodious's eyes. I guess he's on the previous page. I guess I can check.
Meliodas, the green eyes. So yeah.
So he took one of Meliodas' eyes, and he has Elizabeth's hair color
and nose,
but is also kind of got Melodious's like hair, but then has Elizabeth's long hair after you get past like the messy fringe top hair.
It's disturbing to me because their traits should not go together, basically.
Yeah, it's a little odd. Anyway, Tristan is running around saying, hey guys, the 7 deadly sins are going to return. I just found out about them. They're the bad guys. They're going to attack the castle. It's going to be this whole thing. They're coming tonight, and I'm going to stop them. And I, as the prince, nay, a holy knight who will protect the kingdom in peace, I have an obligation to capture them. And everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to go home. See you later. And Tristan's like, oh, all right, well, it looks like I'm the only one I can count on. I'll capture the 7 deadly sins if I have to do it myself. And Elizabeth's like, where the fuck you been? I mean, she says a lot nicer, but she's like, where the fuck? Get back here. And he's like, oh, if you were looking at me, you know those, it means those sinners know about me. And she's like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, they know about you. He's like, oh no, they found out about my secret. Ah, they're here. Those 7 deadly sins. And it's kind of interesting. Nothing's really changed in all of the sins.
None of them have gotten older.
All of them look exactly the same. They all basically spend different turns doting on Tristan, be like, oh, he looks so cute. Oh, he's so cool. Wow, he's so strong, etc., etc., etc. He's like, no, I know all about you. You and my father were sinners who were exiled from the kingdom, and you've come tonight to stage a coup d'etat. And you know what? I have Hendrickson and Howser backing me up. He calls them Hindi San and Hauser San, which is a little adorable. He's like, so you're not going to be able to stop me. And Bond's just like, wait, did you tell your kid that this is did you not tell him what's happening? And he's like, nope. And like Bond's like, I should have done that to my kid too. Because Melodius acts like a villain. He's like, you figured us out then. Well, if you know, then we can't let you live. He's like, no, my father, he's truly a villain. And then they're like, well, there's actually kind of an interesting thing. I have to presume it's intentional. Because he's like, I won't ever hand Leonis over to the likes of you. I'm going to be a holy knight who does this. Melodius is like, a holy knight? And they're surrounded by basically the demon Sind of Wrath's like sigil, like the tattoo Melodius has.
Yes.
I was like, is that unintentional that that's there? Or did it get like, I was like, I don't really know what that means. I guess it's just a way to be like, hey, that's it. But then boom, fireworks go off. And hey, this is actually a big giant birthday party for Prince Tristan. It's his 10th birthday party. It's very,
he forgot about it because he's a stupid, easily distracted little kid.
Yep, basically. And everyone's like, happy birthday. Nope, if your old man really a villain, no one would love him like they do because they love him and he's great. And Gothar's like, here's a birthday present for you. The entirety of the story of the 7 deadly sins, Zip. And he's like, whoa, that was really cool. Kind of slow in the middle. And the 3 false finishes was a little unnecessary. But wow, some real high points. He did start critiquing
He just starts his own podcast. Screw being a holy knight. It's easier to criticize other people's work.
Write something of my own. Fuck that. Then I have to hold myself to my own standards. And he's like, whoa, holy crap, you guys had such a cool adventure. Now I love my dad. He's the super coolest. And Melodius takes him out and is like, yep, your future's ever expanding, just like that sky. And he's like, do I still have to become king? He's like, well, you can become something else if you want to. And he's like, really? Like, yeah, you could even become a holy knight. He's like, then I've decided I'm going to become one of the 7 deadly sins. And then him and Melodius walk out staring up at the sky, and it says the 7 deadly sins, the end in the corner.
Right. So 7 deadly sins we already know is like getting some sort of sequel or spin-off or something like that.
I don't know yet if Suzuki is attached to actually work on it at all, like, or like in like a major way, not in like the Boruto still technically has Kishimoto's influence kind of way. So I don't know what exactly that's going to look like.
Yeah. In terms of like the manga that we have seen come to their conclusion, this definitely feels more like, Naruto's ending than the others. But, there's nothing in it really that makes me go, well, that's weird. Because there's not a whole lot going on in it, but there is enough that makes you feel like, yeah, okay. This is the end of the story, and everyone who's still alive got a happy ending, and everything kind of, got wrapped up. But life goes on, and here's this kid who makes enough of an impression that you're like, all right, I could see, a story following this guy. And, he's not like weirdly creepy like Ichigo and Orihime's kid. I like the, kind of this. I also like he feels like a kid. He's got this bizarre imagination, and he jumps to wrong conclusions and stuff, and they're just kind of humoring him and stuff like that. But also when he learns the truth, he's like, oh, that's something to be admired, and it's something that he wants to, live up to. But yeah, it's really weird after the huge finishes that we had that then the manga kept going to then have this one and be like, yeah, it's over now.
Yeah, really, I kept waiting for a rock to fall and crush the kid or something like that.
Sometimes, after you've had 3 kickouts, just doing another F5 is, it doesn't feel like it should be the end there. It feels like there should be something special at the end, but it was still okay. So.
Yeah, I mean, like in comparison to the other ones, one of the nice things is several times now we've had these false finishes where they've looked like they've been wrapping things up, and enough of those have kind of set a precedence that there really wasn't like we didn't have one of those things where it's just like Chad becomes a boxer, because we've kind of established what most characters are going to do before this. And the plus side is that,
which are all very, very straightforward, simple, easy to expect. So
like, and plus a lot of that all happened previously. Like last chapter was the one to close out what our characters are going to do going forward, and then this one was like, and then the adventure continues, as opposed to like the Bleach chapters ending, which combined the two of them into one chapter basically.
Yeah, or the Naruto chapter where it's like, look at where everyone is, and this one is just like, well, we already said what they were doing, so
yeah. And there's enough stuff that you're like, oh, like we could just think about, like, you don't have to be like, hey, I wonder what's going on with Hawk in Purgatory and things like that. You just kind of let that sit there and be like, all right, we got our endings for those things. Escanor never came back. There's like, not Merlin. Arthur is going to be the king of this chaos, and he's just going to have to be a noble king for Britannia. Going for like, there's stuff that's just like, okay, cool, that's done. We're gonna leave it at that. So
it is interesting that Merlin does not show up in this chapter. So
yeah, I'll be curious to see what the sequel series, if they decide to do it, kind of looks like. I was actually really surprised we didn't see Bon and Elaine's kid at all, because Elaine doesn't show up, so presumably she's staying over to watch the kid while Bon goes and attend this big ceremony. But like, they also bring up that Diane and King have had a kid.
Yep.
And we don't see that kid either.
Nope.
So it's kind of interesting to be like,
this is just Tristan's chapter. There's no Lancelot, and there's no Diane and King's kid. So
it's interesting we don't see them, but maybe that's a good thing. Like, we didn't have to overindulge this chapter with a ton of new designs or anything like that.
You don't have to be like, and then these two had a kid, and then these two had a kid, and here is their child now. Because, I mean, we both really enjoyed going through that final Naruto chapter, but there was a lot in it, and you would not have been able to have, just the very simple payoff of like, hey, this is, Meliodas and Elizabeth's kid. They're imaginative and kind of stupid, but they've got a good heart, and then, get used to them, because presumably the spinoff is going to feature them as a prominent character, if not as the protagonist. So
I do like it. I think probably the same reason we're not talking about this as much as other series that have ended is, one, we don't have as much attachment to Seven Deadly Sins as necessarily we had with Naruto or Bleach. But also, two, as we mentioned, Seven Deadly Sins has ended like 3 times to this point. So it's kind of hard to have those same feelings when you're like, oh, we did this already.
Remember when we thought it was going to end last year? Oh, how naive we were. All right.
Nick, let's talk about the best chapter of the week.
The Promised Neverland, chapter 173, Prisoners. So, feel bad for Rachi, guys. Feel bad for Peter Rachi, because he always looked up to his big brother, who was the leader of the Rachi clan ahead of him. Oh, what a hero he was. I loved him more than anything in the world. He was kind and smart, handsome, sincere, and refined. I respect him more than father, mother, or any great person from any era or country. I believe that I was to support him for the rest of my life, that I was born to do so. If only he hadn't found that document, an old confession that was hidden for 700 years, the regrets of the first leader Julius. It was the truth of how the clan came to be, the opposite of the heroic tale that we were taught. And Rachi's brother was like, how could we be doing this? My brother changed that day. Hesitation and guilt arose in him, but I didn't understand. In fact, I thought, how wonderful. And he was like, Julius didn't do anything wrong. We're the clan that protects the world. He pushed aside personal feelings to save the world. It was a wise decision, and he protected the world, even if it meant he betrayed his comrades. That is what makes a hero, a clan that carries out a noble mission. It's wonderful. And his brother was like, no, this is punishment and a curse, Peter. And Peter's like, no, brother, stop. Don't put the world in danger. You're wrong. Our clan is correct. The children are a necessary sacrifice for this world. I have to stop him. What do I do? Protect the world, like Julius. My brother is a traitor. Eliminate him. And the body, we found him. And they find his body after Peter has ordered him killed. After years have passed, it definitely looks like. What was he like at the end? He was smiling. And he, by the way, I'm here too. I'm a human. I guess. Anyway, he was smiling, and he told us to tell you I'm sorry. And Peter, he grabs his brother's corpse and cries over it. I promise I'll carry out the mission for your sake, brother, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how warped the world may be. And now Emma is here in front of him telling him, let's be free. And Peter's like, I was burdened, a prisoner, all this time by the fate of being in this clan? Yeah, that's what your brother said like 20 years ago to you. Yes. No, it's a noble mission. We're an honorable clan. This mission isn't punishment. It's not a curse. And so he's like, no, I've done the right thing the whole time. And so Emma's still extending her hand to him, and she's like, was my father fighting back? Brother fighting back is his destiny. Did he want to be free? Did he want to free me? And he just gets this weird look on his face. And he's like, you should just kill me. But you say you want to live together? You're fools. That's why you're meant to be eaten. The demons aren't so bad. It's not so bad. Anyway, what they've been doing to you are things that humans have done to each other since long ago. You know how humans always eat each other? Yeah. Anyway.
Well, here's the thing. So we brought up last week how when they did like this big scene of like all the things currently going on in real life that it really didn't work. I thought this one was a better way of kind of doing it because they don't.
Had to be.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to really aim lower, but the idea of like trying to say like, hey, if this is argument, he's like the demons aren't so bad because when you consider it, humans have been doing just as awful things since long ago. And again, you're like, this doesn't take place in our reality, but I'll propose on top of it that this exists in a world where similar things have been done. And in that way, you could be like, yeah, there are awful things that have been committed throughout history that humans have done to each other. So there's an argument there that I can at least be like, it's something. It's not perfect, but it's something.
Yeah. It's the thing where it's like, Peter Rachi is being the guy who's like, oh, you think that things aren't great here. Well, what about, in third world countries where people don't have rights and, like gay people are killed just for existing and women can't vote and all that stuff. So you've got it pretty good. So he's taking that stance. And meanwhile, Emma and the others are taking the stance of we have this problem and things can be better. So we are going to strive to make things better for everyone. And that's why they're the heroes. And Peter Rachi is being the type of villain who is not necessarily the cause of all the problems in the world, but he is propagating them and preserving them by refusing to acknowledge that a better possibility exists.
Yeah, he keeps the institutionalized problems of that world going.
Yes. So he's like, the human world's not any different because they're a mirror of humanity. Code solid. You can pass that on to my uncle. Try it if you can. I'm looking forward to seeing how far you can go in the human world. He takes out a knife and he says, I can't go with you kids. I'll enjoy the new world from the depths of hell. And he stabs himself in the neck. And that's where the chapter ends.
It's the end of this
chapter. I was a very consistent character throughout my entire appearance in this manga.
Like, I understand. Like, so people are in the chatter, like, being like, well, that's a dumb argument that he has. And I agree with you. But it's okay for the character to make that bad argument because it creates some kind of discourse. I don't think it's necessarily constructed to an overall world discourse, but a villain should have motivation, and that being his is fine. It's the thing he's used to convince himself that he is noble in this way. He's like, look, humans have been doing worse. What we're doing is saving a lot of people. That's what he uses to make himself think he's right. The character Peter Rattray has done nothing but scream and be worthless every chapter up to this point. So in this moment to be like, here's his character, and he's dead now. He's killing himself. He gave his big grand speech and then decided to kill himself. It's like, either he's actually dead, and this was such a waste of time, or Emma has gone out and saved him. She got to the knife in the last second, or something like that. Maybe she pulled the knife and ended up cutting herself, or something along those lines. You're like, man, this is lame. Like, it's just going to be, like, either way this goes, it's not going to be interesting because the conflict is over at this point.
Also, I mean, we've seen Peter Rattray do a bunch of really weird, cowardly stuff, make himself out to be incompetent and unlikable, and also he keeps on talking about the farm kids like they're, slaves, without any rights or anything, and mocking them for it. And now we get this, and it's like, now feel bad for him.
Yeah, like, this would be a much more easy thing to get along with if he's ever shown an ounce of real remorse to these kids. But anytime he's ever in a position of power, he's like, ooh, can't you wait to be a fucking burger for some demons? Stupid fucking burgers.
Waiting until the character's going to die to give them a flashback explaining them and explaining why they are the way they are is one thing. But this does not explain at all why he's like, yeah, be burgers and die. Like, that did nothing to explain why he treats them so poorly. If he had just been expressing like a coldness towards Emma and the others, like, you are supplies, you are, or if he had said like, you should be proud of what is being accomplished on your corpses or something like that, that would be a different thing. But again, character writing in Promised Neverland is not one of the focuses. So yeah, this was not very good. I am with you that the philosophical argument is better than what we've seen in previous weeks. And I think that this could have been a good chapter, basically completely unchanged if stuff before it were drastically different. So,
all right, let's finish up this week.
There's no One Piece this week, so yeah.
With Black Clover, page 245, Dante versus the captain of the Black Bulls. Hey, Yami showed up, and based off the panel in the first page, he has become an absolute unit. He's like a Rob Liefeld drawing. He's 90% chest.
He is a Trisket man now.
Yeah.
And that thigh gap, though. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I mean, bravo. I mean, his little tiny baby legs, but hey, that thigh gap's impressive. He looks around, he sees that Gauche is on the ground and Asta's on the ground, and he's like, hey, you know what?
Asta in the most undignified pose, by the way.
If someone was ever like, Yamcha looked too dignified, curled up like a baby in that crater, we need a new Yamcha pose that's even more disgraceful. And Asta found it. He does have a cool line where he says, I don't really care. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, you're dead meat. And he's looking at his friends. So Dante's like, oh, excellent. Mattis looks, but nobody looks down on me. So he uses his gravity magic. And it doesn't really matter. Like, it brings down the spatial magic, but Yami just grabs Finral and kind of like lands.
Superhero landing.
And he's like, ooh, you're not gravelly. Not at all. And Yami says, I've learned some stuff over the past 6 months. I guess I'll give it a test drive. Mana Zone and Black Hole, Dark Magic, Black Moon. So Yami has magic erasing powers too now because it creates a magic zone that erases his spells, Dante's spells within it. So I guess maybe it's not erasing magic, it just erases gravity by being kind of anti-gravity. Kind of the same way One Piece has kind of made Blackbeard's power of gravity kind of like, or darkness gravity itself. So I guess it's anti-gravity. I don't really know exactly. Anyway, Dante's like, well, I'll just shoot rocks at you really fast. And it doesn't work because Yami just cuts him in half. And he's like, well, then I'll have to get in really close. So he summons a sword. He's like, I'm going to just launch myself into you and have a big sword fight. And Yami's like, I'm reacting to his moves even before he makes them by using Mana Zone and reading Ki. I'm not on Julius's level, though. And Dante's kind of like laughing and being crazy. And he's like, so he could use the power of gravity to control the speed of his sword strikes, too? Interesting. It kind of sounds like you know me. And Yami's like, what are you, a stalker? And he's like, yes, that's right. You're what I'm after. And Yami gives his whole line of like, being popular with dudes like you doesn't make me happy at all. His old chestnut.
Ew, gay.
Yeah. And he says, you are a key that links this world with the underworld. So, a teaser for things to come. But he's like, it's a shame, though. Who would have thought Yami would be such a vulgar, shabby fellow, as he goes in. And he's like, how did a man like you acquire so many people with such unique magic? It's the first time I've ever been jealous of a human. Thank you for this new malice. But your arcane stages are already mine. From now on, they'll be with me, serving my ends. And Yami says, arcane stages serve your ends? What are you talking about? I just let those guys into the Black Bulls because I like them.
Because of their interesting abilities. Yeah. That makes me totally different from you.
I mean, when you put it like that, you're not wrong. And he condenses all of his magic, and he says, I'm not going to give up on a single one of them. And he does his fucking you are already dead move and slashes him and passes by, and it's the dark clouded eye slash.
EI.
EI?
Yeah.
EI slash.
It's after Iaido, which is the art of finishing fights in one slash. So
Yami potentially has won and beaten one of the Dark Triad. Who knows? I thought this guy was supposed to be the strongest of them, so maybe he's still alive. But, I mean, it seemed like Zeno was going to be the one that was going to get the most focus anyway. Yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, yeah, we'll defeat this dude here, but Zeno's the one we have to really worry.
We also haven't seen him release 100% of his devil. So yeah.
So I guess there's still a lot of room.
It's I mean, this has been a pretty cool fight so far, honestly. I mean, because Asta didn't just beat Asta and win. There were stakes. It actually seemed like, especially following up on the fight where, members of Yuno's, team died. That is, and, you saw the sword go through gaps like, okay, well, they might actually be in trouble here. So if this is the end of the fight and like this, and Dante just declares like a tactical retreat or something like that, then I could be happy with that. So yeah, that's about it.
Yep. It was a chapter. It's not bad though. It is interesting. Like every member of the Black Bulls has some super ancient kind of gimmick to them. Like Vanessa being a witch, Asta has his demon, Gauch has the mirror eye, fucking Charmy.
Gray is apparently an arcane stage thing too.
Charmy is a werewolf. Yami has connections to the underworld. Like basically every character but Magna has like some crazy interesting backstory to him. And then Mags was like, I use fire to make baseball.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. That is going to do it for Week of Manga Recap, everyone. What were your favorite chapter and MVP for this week, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it to Dr. Stone. It's Wacky Cocktail chapter. I really enjoyed that chapter. I really thought it was fun.
Hey, well, you like what you like, you know. So
no, I have to apologize. People will judge me. And my character of the week is gonna be Twice from My Hero Academia. He was excellent.
Totally get that. My favorite series this week was Chainsaw Man. I know. Favorite character. I had it. Hang on a second. I'll go through this real quick. So we had was it Twice?
Most of the people are saying Twice. Darkness Devil got a point. Tristan got a point. Yami from Black Clover. Those are the ones the audience are picking, at least.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Twice. So,
okay. Boom, Twice. Everybody said Twice. The audience said Chainsaw Man and Twice as well.
All right. So with that said, thank you everyone for joining us here on twitch.tv/RoloT. We record the show live around 7:30 to 8 Eastern Wednesday nights.
Live?
Yes, Chris.
I shouldn't be saying fuck. I shouldn't be saying fuck so often.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's Twitch. I don't think they fucking care.
Let's get this fucking show on the fucking road then.
Fuck. Like
the old DX video. I still enjoy that one where it's just like the words will not say. Okay, won't say fuck, motherfucker, cock, bullshit. And like Shawn Michaels like, I can't say fuck. He's like, watch your goddamn fucking mouth. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, when DX were funny. Be sure to check out our past episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. You also subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave a comment, leave a rating so we can rise to the top of the hobby section, dethrone the woodworkers. Send us feedback, ask us questions, suggest manga for us to read. Do that stuff at our email, weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com, or join the Discord server. You can also participate in various chats, including the recommendation that we're working on, which is currently Beastars. And there's a My Hero Academia RP on there. There's all sorts of stuff. And you can also use that to find the Weekly Manga Recap document maintained by Ninja X3i, where we keep track of the recommendations we've covered, MVPs and favorite series of each week, and various other nice little things. Special thanks go out to everyone who supports us on Patreon. You allow us to create bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Steve Mann, our title card artist. You can check out his work everywhere that boobs can be viewed. Infamous Planet, who made the new frame for the visual edition of the podcast, and Milo Jack Stillitz and Winston Cheddar for making the opening sequence for the show. So that's going to do it for this week. We will see you next time when we may end up talking about Beastars. So
yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who knows if we'll find the time in all of this.
There's so little of it to
exactly
utilize right now.
All right, that's going to do it, everybody. Goodbye.